everybody, I'm back. I don't know what happened to my live stream, but something happened. I don't know if somebody reported me or what. But I'm back doing my live stream. And I just wanted to tell a story. Here's a story. Yeah, is this story. Y'all sit back. This ain't gonna take long. So, for those of you who don't know about me, I was married to the same man for 8 years. And I was married to a wonderful, delightful man who has blessed me with a child and everything. And I married my best friend, and it's a blessing or a curse. Me marrying my best friend. I say it's a curse because I know what it feels like to be in a good relationship with your best friend, and a lot of people have never even had one good relationship. I had a good marriage, and I married a good man. Now, me and my husband, we were not the same. We were opposites. In temperament, my husband was much more laid back, spontaneous, and easygoing. If people know me, I am not spontaneous. I don't like surprises. I am not the most easygoingest person on the planet. Back then, when I met my late husband, I was for sure not that person. I was not that person. I can be stubborn, I can be hard headed, but I'm determined and I'm a hard worker. And I care about causes and care about people, sometimes too much to my own mental health, my own detriment. So when my husband was like 9 years younger than me, and he was very carefree, and I'm like here with the weight of the world and the weight of, being raised in a broken home. And he had two parents and a sister, and I was raised in a broken home, and I was from the hood and he lived in the hood too. But, we both grew up poor, kind of, but I grew up with having a lot more than he did. I mean, my husband grew up very, very poor in the hood with Black people. And not saying that there's anything bad about it, but that's just to give you some context. My husband and me, both of us, we could have chose other people. I can be quite abrasive, but I'm nice. I'm the nicest, sweetest person if I like you, and if I don't like you, my husband was much more outgoing. I'm very introverted. So my husband got sick, real sick. He had congestive heart failure. He was born with cardiomyopathy, which is the heart vessels. His left side of the heart didn't work good. I was terrified to death my son was going to have the same thing, but my son is good. But my husband, toward the end of his life, it's a struggle. I will do a video, but it's hard for me to really talk about. Like I'm telling y'all, it's hard for me to discuss all the things that went on when my husband was sick. I had to advocate for my husband. There was hospital situations that I would yell at. I've had to advocate for two people in my life. I had a premature baby that spent 2 months in the hospital before I could bring him home, and that's my son. And then my husband was in and out of the hospital for 2 years. He was in a coma for a little over a month, and he came out of the coma and he couldn't walk, y'all. He couldn't walk. When I say he couldn't walk because your muscles atrophy, and he couldn't walk. And when he first came to out of the coma, they had, because he had a procedure, he realized he had all this stuff sticking out of his chest. He had an LVAD, look it up. And my husband couldn't feed himself. He couldn't walk. He went from an able-bodied 26-year-old man to an invalid. And that was a hard thing for him to deal with. And here I was with an 18-month-old. It was hard. It is hard to this day. My husband's been gone for like 10 years. It is hard for this day for me to talk about. I had to do an advocacy for my husband because they were trying to put him in hospice care. This upsets me, but I feel like this needs to be told. They were going to put my husband in hospice care because for some reason, I won't say it's racially motivated. I don't really know what it was. But because I worked at a job and I was taking care of a child, they didn't think I could take care of my husband's needs because we couldn't afford, the insurance wouldn't pay for a home health care nurse. And we didn't, God knows I didn't have the money out of pocket to pay. By that time, my husband didn't have a job anymore. He was on disability, and it takes a while for the Medicaid or Medicare or whatever to kick in. And then they only could pay for like he had to learn how to walk. He had a home health care person come 3 times a week teaching him how to walk. And he had to sleep downstairs. And I remember I was upstairs and I would always I never slept. Like all the time my husband couldn't walk, I never slept. Like I would go downstairs to make sure he was still breathing. Because he came home with me. To get my husband home, they were going to put him in hospice care. And hospice care is usually for people who are about to die or old people, right? Right. So my husband, I mean to advocate for somebody. For those of you who've had someone terminally ill or sick, to advocate. You know how the medical system can be, and I don't know if it's because I was a black woman. I don't know if it's because we were young. And again, I'm in my 30s. But by that time, I would my husband, like, I'm in my 30s. I, my husband heart broke when they talking about he couldn't come home and see his son and couldn't come home and be with his family. He's been in the hospital by that time about 2.5 months. I had to advocate for my husband. I had to go before a medical board and push the insurance company to not put him in hospice. His doctors fought with me. They fought with me. They fought with me. My husband would go to the hospital and have bed sores. I've been through it. And when all was settled and done, my husband looked at me and said, when he finally were able to walk, I never forget the conversation. We were sitting there watching TV, and we were watching TV as something about somebody's, we were watching something about somebody's parent or child or something left in hospice care. And my husband said to me, you know what? You could have left me there. You could have walked away, Keisha, and went and go live your life. You could have said this was too much for me, threw your hands up and said, F it. Because some people would have. But I married my best friend, and I'm not that kind of person. And my husband said, the reason why I married you is because I knew you were not that kind of woman. And I'm telling y'all that heart with all my heart, with all of my heart. As I look at y'all who might watch this video, I'm telling you, all this rhetoric about femininity and masculinity, at the end of the day, my husband was like, I married the right bitch. I married you because I understood that push come to shove, this woman right here is going to fight for me and fight for my child. I had to advocate for my child when he was in the hospital and premature. And my husband, it was a battle. I had to battle him. I had to battle the hospital system. I had to battle everything. And my husband told me, and he was a believer, y'all know I don't believe in God. He felt like God gave me this wife, that God sent me to him, because any other woman, if I was half the woman that I am, most women would have left, would have been like, this is enough. I could have took my kid and told his parents and his sister, you deal with this shit, I'm gone. But there is no way, being the person that I am, would have left my husband. There is no way I would have left him in a messed up situation like that. My husband needed me to be strong. My husband needed me to be competent. My husband needed me to get all of this mouth, You're going to put my husband where? You're going to do what? What the fuck out of here? What is this stuff? Why is this bedpan clean? It was always a constant me fighting with these people. But that's the kind of person I am. I was a protester. I stand up for what I believe in. I help people. People always come at me for help. When shit hit the fan, everybody come to Kiki. What we do now? They looking for me for answers. So my husband said, I pick carefully, because I knew you were the woman that if shit hits the fan, my wife got it. She got me. If something happened to our child and something happened to him, my husband knew that he married that bitch. He married me. And I'm no wilting flower. And I'm not going to back up and back off and just let things go. And I'm not that person. I'm not here for your fucking submission or to be a fucking doormat. My husband chose me because he picked a real one. And he wanted to pick a real one, almost supernaturally. He had no way of knowing. My husband didn't have no health issues when we got together and we got married. All this didn't happen until we were together for like 3 years. And then all of a sudden, the bottom dropped all to everything. So we were together for 4 years before all this shit went down. Any other woman would be like, oh my God, I don't know about all this. My husband lost his job. He lost his physical ability to do anything. He lost his mind. My husband was sick. I had a toddler. I had a fucking 18-month-old when my husband was. And I held this man down. I held this man down. And this man chose that type of woman. He didn't choose a doormat. He didn't choose a dum dum. He didn't choose some chick that didn't have no agency or didn't know what to do. He chose somebody responsible, somebody competent, somebody compassionate, somebody loyal. We didn't jump into a relationship. We didn't move in together after 3 days. He observed and watched, and we were friends, and I married my best friend. And regardless of whether anything would have happened, I told him, I said, there is no way I would leave you like this. I wouldn't do that to a dog. But that's what some people do. That's what some people do. It's not, my life has not been for everybody. Everybody can't go through some certain things. And what Coretta Scott King, what she went through to have her family, her husband, and her kids' life on the line and hold it all together, that's a real woman. Well, Michelle Obama had to deal with the things that she was called a man. She was called a monkey. All kinds of things. She's ugly. She's not the right type of black woman. She's too dark to go through everything, and that people sling arrows at her husband left and right down to this day. And she still hold her man down. That's the kind of woman, fellas, you need to get. You need to observe what kind of person you're dealing with. How does this person treat other people? How does this person treat their family? How does this person treat their friends? How does this person act in public? How does this person treat you? How does this person treat themselves? Do they carry themselves in a way that's respectable? Do they care about other people and other things? Because dealing with a selfish ass person is the worst thing in the world. I've been in. I had a relationship, 5-year relationship with somebody who was selfish, who only cared about themselves. Do they care about other people and other things? Are they watching TV and then they're like, oh, I don't care about that. That ain't got nothing to do with me. I don't want to fuck with you. I don't want a man like that. I want a man to stop and be like, dang, that's messed up. What is that? I married a man like that. My husband wasn't educated. I was smarter than him. I was more educated than him. I was older than him. I was more mature than him. My husband had compassion. My cousins, me and my husband raised kids that weren't our own. We took people in that weren't our own. Any other man could have said, fuck no, Keisha, I ain't doing that. I ain't taking these people in. I ain't taking these kids in. It was never an issue. When my mama came down here, my husband could have easily been like, why is your mama here? My husband said, come on. My cousins couldn't go live with their mama, my aunt, because of God knows what the reason. My husband didn't blink an eye and was like, come on, and loved it. Loved that they were there, loved the company, loved my cousins like they were his own children. Before we even had kids, they were living with us. And my husband could have been salty about it and could have been like, that's your family. I don't care. Did it like some people do. And I will never take that for granted. That I had the pleasure of having a good man in my life. And that I was the Michelle to his Barack, even though he's white. And he is white. But my husband carried himself. He wasn't perfect, y'all. But my husband had a deep, profound respect of me and love for me. And love for me not only as a woman, but as a Black woman. Because I'm for sure a Black woman all day, even back then. And he may not understood certain things and ask questions, but he was like, well, if Keisha says it's cool, then I guess I'm down with it. If Keisha like it, I'm down with it. You know best, Keisha. Okay, sometimes I did know best because I was older and more mature. So that's my story. So I tell people out there, if you're going to try to find Michelle or Coretta, be Barack and MLK. Find somebody. And I know it's hard. I'm single right now and it's hard. But I'm not going to give up and settle no more for somebody that's not standing right next to me or sitting right next to me. That's not my friend. That's not my partner. It's not my lover. And like I said, it's a blessing or a curse to have a good marriage and a good relationship. Sometimes I go back and forth. I'm like, I'm not trying to find somebody exactly like my husband or be like him. I don't expect that, but I expect to be treated a certain way. I expect to have a good relationship. I don't want to sit there fussing and fighting and arguing with nobody. Jonathan Major should have been sitting there fussing and fighting and arguing with nobody. You don't have to live like that. So that's my story. That's my heartfelt story. It's like my husband used to say, get you a wife like my wife. My wife is awesome. My wife is smart. She's beautiful. She's capable. If anything happened, my husband be looking at me like, what you think? Babe, I think it ain't got nothing to do with male or female. The man should lead. And my husband knew when to defer to my intelligence. My husband knew to defer to my experience. I had more experience in life than him. I had more education than him. It didn't bother him. He wasn't offended that I was highly opinionated. He wasn't offended that sometimes I can be a little mouthy, but we didn't fight and we didn't fuss and we didn't argue and we didn't. I wasn't trying to buck up against him. And I'm not in competition with my husband. My husband's not in a competition with me. It wasn't a control thing. It was like, my wife's an individual. I can't control her. She not my pet. My husband gave me the freedom to be who I was and explore who I was while I was in college. I went to school. My husband worked. I was out there protesting. My husband bought markers. That's the kind of man I was married to. That's the kind of man I like. That's the kind of man and a partner, not just a man, that I want y'all to have, that I want everybody to have. Even Jonathan Majors, if things are good with him and making good, then so be it. But, that's life. So put yourself in that position. And then if you're not, keep trying and don't give up and don't settle. So that's my tale. My heartfelt plea to myself and to everybody out there. So that's it for today. I've done 2 lives. That's it for today. Y'all have a good day. Mic drop, biatch.